Jesus used seeds to illustrate the operation of his kingdom. In 4 of his teaching parables, the focus was upon the growth and development of seeds. Jesus compared the kingdom of God to a growing seed. On today's program, I'll be sharing some of the parallels between the development of seeds and kingdom living. Join me for part 3 of Learning from a Seed.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Good News Radio broadcast with Pastor Tom Arnold. Tom serves as pastor of Good News Church in Yukon, Oklahoma, and is our teacher on this daily program. It is his desire that you will discover God's abundant plan for every aspect of your life through the faithful study of God's Word. Join us now as we go into today's message.
Now here's the third thing Paul said about giving here in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. He said, we should give with expectation. Our harvest is going to be greater than the seed that we sow. We're expecting a harvest. Everybody say, I am expecting a harvest. Oh, you have to write that down on your refrigerator. I'm expecting a harvest. Somebody say, oh, yes, Reverend, I say that. I'll say that next Sunday when I see you. Don't say it. Don't wait a week. Some of you, my Lord, you've been tithing since you were 10 years old. You know what you need to be saying? I'm expecting a harvest. I'm expecting that. Something good happens to you. You should never say, can you believe that happened? You say, oh, yeah, that kind of stuff happens all the time. So that's it, expectation. You're expecting. You know, I have a friend of mine that's a farmer, and I talked to him this week when I was thinking about this message. He expects harvest. He's expecting harvest. It's not like, can you believe we got a harvest? It was like, no, I was expecting. In fact, I planted towards a harvest. And so that's the way we live. We have an expectation. Your seeds are your future harvest. Proverbs 11:24, there is one who scatters, yet increases more. There is one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty. The generous soul will be made rich. He who waters will also be watered himself. So you water, and guess what? It refreshes you. It refreshes you. So the first one was the lesson of seeds from Jesus. The second part of this was lessons about seeds from the Apostle Paul. But I'm going to talk to you about lessons from an ear of corn. So I have an ear of corn here this morning, a couple of ears of corn. I've got some props today, okay? So I've got a couple things I want to show you. And they're concealed so nobody would see them. Okay. All right, so here's what we got. I got 3 ears of corn. 3 ears of corn. Now, do you understand that these ears of corn are all the product of a kernel of corn? So I talked to this friend of mine, Bill Kern, on Friday, and I said, Bill, so talk to me a little bit about harvest. And he said, well, Tom, one kernel of corn in the ground, on average, now this is Oklahoma, in different parts of the country you're going to have different harvests, but on average is going to yield anywhere from 2 to 4 ears of corn on a stalk. So you got one kernel of corn, and then it's going to produce anywhere from 2 to 4. So we just went in the middle and went with 3, okay? So here you have one kernel of corn, went in the ground, and I'm going to pull these back. Now, how many expect there's going to be some kernels in here? All right? So here we go. We're going to, oh my Lord, looky here. I'm separating this husk off the corn, and I'm looking in here, and guess what I found? I found a bunch of, this is actually good looking corn. I found a bunch of kernels. Now he told me, he said, but Tom, he said, just one time I thought I'm going to count how many kernels of corn are on one cob. He said, and I counted, I come up with about 150. I started to have the children in here today to count this for him. Okay, well, I got one. I mean, one seed. I got 150. Well, that's not all. Guess what? Oh my, I'm going to see, oh, looky here. I got some more. I'm going to pull this apart, and guess what? I'm up to 300 now. Wow. Now this one, there's some kind of a bug in here, and he got a few of them, but guess what? I still got a lot. Sharon's not real wild whenever I grill out and I'm excited about corn. She always goes, well, let's see what's in there. You know, so anyway, so here is the third one. Guess what? I'm pulling apart here, and now I'm up. Guess what I'm up to? I'm up to 450. Ralph said, give or take. Thank you, Ralph. But you know what? There's a lot of people doing there going, Pastor, I got my little piece of corn here. I can't let go of it, Pastor. Got my coin. I said coin. I got my corn here, Pastor. Oh, it's my favorite piece of corn. Don't you get that corn? I'm holding on to that piece of corn. I'm holding on to that, Pastor. Now, do you really think you're going to get full eating this piece of corn here? Can this piece of corn really help you out that much? But guess what? You could take this seed and you could plant it, and guess what? And it's not going to take 10 years. It's not going to take 25 years. How many know it doesn't take a lifetime to get this back? You sow this piece of corn, kernel of corn, and look what you got back. For all of those that are afraid of giving, Pastor, I got to hold on to that corn. I want to encourage you, sow and get that little piece of corn out of your pocket and put it in the ground. And guess what? You know what you can do? You can have enough for you, and you can bring a couple friends over. Say, guess what? I got some corn here. Now, one of them's got a worm on it, and you can have that, but I'm just teasing. So here's a lesson. So what's the lesson number one you can learn is you'll reap more than what you sowed. Now you say, Pastor, now that may work agriculturally, but I don't know about in the spirit realm. So Jesus, who's the head of the church, who is the truth, is the one that told us to look at these agricultural things. Okay, so that's lesson number one there, is that you're going to reap more than what you sow. Now here's the second thing you can learn from an ear of corn. If you eat all your corn, you're going to eat your future harvest. When you sit down and eat, at least at our house, like I say, I love to smoke these on the grill. I soak them in water, and then I put them in the grill, and then I bring them out. Now, we enjoy this at our house. But, I've learned this. If I just sit here and I just eat every bit of it, and I just eat every little bit of it, and I don't leave one seed behind, well, guess what? I'm eating my future harvest. Now, I'm using that as an illustration. Some people, when they get their paycheck, they're going to eat every little bit of it. Every little bit of it. But you ever think there's a portion of your paycheck's not for eating, it's for sowing? Jesus said, render to God things that are God's. It's God's. It's God's. Now you think Jesus is saying that because, see, what he's trying to do, he's trying to break you down. He's trying to run you in the poorhouse. That's not why Jesus is saying that. Jesus knows how to live life and live it more abundantly. And he's saying, look, here's what you got to learn. You can't eat up all your seeds. You got to put some seed back in the ground. And unfortunately, you got a lot of people, and they eat every single bit of their seed. Now, here's the thing I want to say. The type of seed you sow is the type of harvest you're going to reap. So if I sow corn, guess what I'm going to get back? I'm going to get corn back. Now, if I went over here and I said, Pastor, I don't want to sow corn. I want to sow squash. Well, if you sow squash, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get squash. And guess what's inside the squash? Seeds, right? But you got to remember, even though you eat the squash, you got to save some of those seeds. You say, Pastor, I like to sow love. Well, when you sow mercy, Jesus said you'll receive mercy. That's true. Pastor, I like to be the type of person that sows kindness. Well, you sow kindness. That's a wonderful thing. But let me say this. If you want to receive financially, you need to sow financially. Because, see, that's a financial seed, is what Paul said, is what's going to produce financial harvest. There's no ambiguity there. It's just sow that, and then that comes back to you. Now, here's what I want to say. The third thing is, you can't depend on eating someone else's harvest. Did you know, really, church, this is somebody else's harvest right here? I did not grow this corn. I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't grow it. All I did is went down the store and bought it. I didn't actually grow it. It's somebody else's harvest. Now, what I want to get across to you today, there's a lot of people that are eating other people's harvest. Now, let me give you an example. I was one of them. I grew up and I went to a public school, okay? When I got school age, I went down to the neighborhood school. The thought never went through my mind one time. I walked in that school. It was a nice school. It had air conditioning, had heat. It had a library, had a college-educated teacher. The thought never went through my mind one time. Who's paying that teacher? When they gave me those books, thought never went through my mind. Who's paying for these books? We had a janitor named Mr. Jaco. Mr. Jaco, he cleaned up that place. He kept it looking good. The thought never went through my mind. Who's paying for Mr. Jaco? All I did was just sit down and I just enjoyed my elementary school. And then later I got into middle school. Well, I played sports. The thought never went through my mind, who's paying Coach Barry? These basketballs, who paid for that basketball? See, I was eating somebody else's harvest. Well, then after I got married, I sat down and I realized that when you buy a house, you got a mortgage payment. And then after you got your mortgage payment, you got insurance. And then you got this other thing called property tax. Property tax. And then they send you a little pie chart on what that property tax is. And you realize a lot of that property tax is going to pay for school. A lot of it's going to pay for education. And you know, I realized for the first time in my life, all my life I was getting that what I thought was free education, but it wasn't free education. There was people paying for it. And you know, there's a school in our neighborhood. And you know, I've never had one of the little kids from that elementary school knock on the door and just say, I want to say thank you for paying for my education. I want to thank you for that. You see, I really grew up thinking, well, it's all free. See, I was eating somebody else's harvest. Somebody else in my community was paying for my education. And I went to public schools all the way through college. I mean, I went through public schools. Of course, you pay for it in college, but it still offset the cost of it. Here's my thought. Please don't live a life of eating somebody else's harvest. Now, I grew up in a home where I ate my dad's harvest, okay? My dad worked. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked, and he worked 2 jobs a period of time. He'd work his day job, and he had a little something in the evening. He had a business he had. And, you know, I never thought when I went into our house, I never thought, who's paying for the electricity around here? I didn't even know they charged us for electricity. Who paid for that water? Who paid for that gas bill? Who bought these? I knew who bought the groceries. I did have that much sense. But you know, who put the gas in the car? I lived off his harvest. But you know, I got older and I got a job. And after I got that job, I started working. And the best days of my life was whenever I was able to do something with my harvest and help pay them back and do something for them and buy something for them or fix this up or let me take care of that. I love that. Now, here's what I want to say to you, church. Part of the lesson we can learn from the kernel of corn is that we can't always depend on eating somebody else's harvest. There comes a time when we got to start growing our own harvest. And what does that mean? That means maybe when you were a child, you know, somebody else kind of paid the way, but then all of a sudden now you're realizing now it's time for me to help somebody else out. It's time for me to be a blessing to somebody else. So here's what I want to say in conclusion today. You sow whatever you sow. I just pulled off one kernel of this corn. One kernel of this corn can produce really even more than that, but we'll just stop at 450, up to 600 kernels of corn. So, you know, don't view, oh, Pastor, I'm giving and I'm on the way down. Now, I've got some more illustrations in here. You know, it's this time of the year, so this seemed to fit. Did you know one little old seed in the ground can give you one of these?
Thanks for joining me today. Remember, seeds will never multiply unless they are first planted in the ground. The multiplication doesn't happen in our hands, it happens in the soil. Instead of eating all of our seeds, we must sow some of them for a future harvest. Small seeds will produce a great harvest.
Thank you for listening to today's message. You can hear this message again by visiting online at goodnewschurch.tv. To listen to this and many other messages by Pastor Tom, download the Good News Church mobile device app by searching for Good News Church Yukon through both the iTunes and Android stores. Through the website, you can also subscribe to the podcast. Pastor Tom invites you to visit Good News Church whenever you are in the greater Oklahoma City area. Good News is located at the intersection of Main Street and the Yukon Parkway in Yukon. He welcomes you to worship with them on Sundays at 10 a.m. Good News Church. It's a great place to be.